Welcome to the 3% Podcast. This is Chad Post from Open Letter Books, and this is a special sort of bonus podcast in which I brought in Jan Patalski and Ayub Al-Hamadi from who are two students that have been studying here at the University of Rochester for the past year. Both are Fulbright scholarships, and are leaving next week to go back to their respective countries. So I thought, well, they're still here, since they're both incredibly funny and interesting and have unique viewpoints, Jan being from Poland and Ayub being from Yemen, that'd be cool to have them on the podcast to talk a bit about the program, about what they worked on, about like class, which is super fun, and just general stuff. Now, before we got started, I was telling Ayub about how these podcasts usually work and how Tom and I usually go from talking about book stuff into sports, usually soccer and basketball and football and everything else. And I was asking him about sports in Yemen, and I want you to tell me what you were just telling me about this interesting sport in Yemen.
Okay, actually, this is not really in all over Yemen, but it's just in one area in Yemen. It's jumping over camels. It's
I love it.
They start with one camel, and they don't jump. Actually, they jump from the ground. They don't have to jump from any place.
Right.
Just from the ground, they jump over the camel. Then they start with 2 camels, 3 camels,
but
4
they
camels.
don't stack the camels one.
No, just they
side by side
in a row.
Okay.
Just, yeah.
Do they run and jump over?
Run and jump over the camel. It's really difficult.
Do the camels are willing to stay there?
Actually, they just catch the camel by their tails together. They hold them together. Another person will hold them together.
Don't they kick?
So
No, camels are.
They don't.
Camels are lame.
They don't care.
They are not donkeys, man.
So Jan, why don't you tell me a bit about how you ended up coming here and what your background, what you've been working on? Give me some Polish. Give me some Polish
meat
stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, Polish meat, Polish pierogi.
So I was thinking about, after I graduated from the University of Warsaw, from the American Studies with focus on American literature, I was thinking that I would like to do something more focused on literary translation. And since in Poland I took some courses during my studies, but it's not, you don't have any programs that are specifically oriented around translation, I started looking around with my back then fiancée, who's from here. She's from the States. We started looking, so she helped me research some programs that are, all about translation. And so essentially that's how I found Rochester.
And you came because Open Letter is the coolest thing.
Oh, absolutely. That was like
That's
the obvious thing.
important.
Actually, before I knew anything about 3% and this program, like in greater detail, her mother sent me an email completely independently saying, I think you should follow this because this is all about translation and literature and all of that. And it was 3%. So, and
Your fiance's mom knows I have a potty mouth. she's like, you should follow, but don't hang out with him.
so
he's gonna ruin my future son-in-law.
Yeah, well, I think she's still pretty proud. But anyway, so that was how I figured I found. Well, actually, she found Rochester, and I just thought it's really cool. But it's all thanks to my now wife that I'm here. But yeah, and so I applied, and
you've been translating from English into Polish as well.
Oh yeah. So I've been doing a lot of translation work, but it wasn't literary translation. Right. So I did a lot of stuff for the university, different essays, works, books, academic books and stuff like this. I did some articles for different magazines.
Am I remembering right that you wanted to translate David Foster Wallace into Polish too?
Yeah. I did some samples actually way back. Yeah, but I never applied anywhere, or I never sent in a sample anywhere. But yeah, because there's one story, as far as I know. It's one short story.
That's in Polish ever?
Yeah.
Wow.
Officially published. And it was in some really obscure collection of short, the most contemporary short stories from the United States. And there's this one about a guy who's burning or something. There's a really short one where a guy either is burning or was burnt. And
okay.
That's the one. So,
how about you, Ayub? How did you end up?
Actually, I applied for more than one university, and the Fulbright staff, they chose just this university for me because the university that I get acceptance from first, I will go for it.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up, in the University of Rochester. Actually, it was a good opportunity for me to know more about publishing because I didn't really know before studying, publishing courses and all that stuff, that editors play an important role in, making some changes to the translation and doing all the edits that are needed to the book to be suitable for the market. That was really important because almost we didn't have editors back in Yemen. Just they would take the book and publish it from the author to the publishing house directly.
Yeah, and you described once in the class, in the publishing class that you took with me, about in Yemen it's not even it's really just printers, essentially.
Yeah, just they take the whatever book it is, translation. Actually, we didn't have a lot of translations published in Yemen.
Right.
But we have authors who publish the works, that they send it to that person. We have it's like a printing house. They just print this stuff and it's there in the market. Even they didn't have these marketing plans. Even in Yemen, not in the Arab world.
Right.
But we still.
I have to say, it sounds slightly more fair. For whatever reason, it sounds like it gives more chance to good authors. You just go and print your stuff and
just put it up. Well, you can do that with Amazon now too.
But but the publishers and stuff, it matters in
But
this way.
they will not publish your book unless you are known. You would not just publish anything from. They don't want really to lose some money.
So how do you get known?
It just by if you have good relations with famous authors or poets. So you start to write, and then they write recommendations. They introduce your work. So then you just become known to the public.
What is for the benefit of everyone listening, could you describe the book that you translated for your thesis?
Okay, it's called Mr. M. It's about a person who is having this nightmare. It comes to him it visits him every day with the same details, and he's trying to escape from this nightmare. There is a ghost, and sometimes more than one ghost in this nightmare, and they are telling him that he is dead. Everything is over. He has just to prepare himself to go to the world of the dead, and he's struggling and trying to get rid of this nightmare. So he started to consult his friends to seek advice from them, and throughout the whole novel you will find just these points of views about death and life and how to live your life properly. And he ended up just having the same struggle without finding any solution. So it seems like the author used him to view his points about death and life and all this.
It's a really cool book. I'll try and include a bit of it in the post for this podcast, just so people can get a taste, because it's pretty awesome. Everyone that read it in the class loved it.
Yeah, some people say it's creepy, but
yeah, it's kind of creepy. It's kind of. This guy keeps dreaming, and one of the opening lines is "You are finished." You are done. That's pretty intense. But the one thing that people listening would be really interested in is the title. What was the title in Arabic? And you had a problem with this.
Actually, it's it's meme, which is the same equivalent letter for M in English. So it has different indications, and when I start with M, the letter meme means maut, which is death in Arabic. It means maf'ul bih, which is to be the object, to be the receiver of everything without doing anything. To be very negative in your life. So it has different implications that cannot be transferred in English. But also I was thinking about, and we had different workshops, and M also have this meaning of mortality and other stuff. So and the ambiguity itself, it also has some ambiguity in Arabic, and it's also can be somehow ambiguous in English. So I kept it as it is. Maybe in the future can be changed. I don't know.
That's interesting. What about your book? Because
So my book is titled Salki, and it's actually a Polish title, but so far I'm still kind of leaning towards leaving it
it's a place name, right?
it's a word. Literally,
Oh, wait, yeah.
Now, if you say Salki in Polish now, it means it's a plural for small rooms, but it's actually explained in the book, and in the book I think it's derived from like Lithuanian, I think, and it was supposed to denote a place, usually in the attic, where you keep like your memorabilia, souvenirs, stuff that brings back memories. So I left the title this way because I think it fits.
I think so too.
Yeah, and it's nonfiction. It's what we call creative nonfiction, I guess. And it's essentially the narrator, who's the author, who introduces himself, has this one very long sleepless night where he can't fall asleep. He's waiting to travel back home from Sweden on the next day, and there's a storm going on. He's on an island. He can't sleep, and so he goes on this. In his mind, he starts reminiscing about his travels, his family history, and it all ties in very nicely in this one, long epic story of why they never traveled, why he traveled, how the war displaced him, and what happened.
That's pretty cool. So,
I also remember that you told me once it has stories from different places. Even there's one in Turkey, one in...
Oh yeah, so because he himself traveled a lot, so we get a lot of pieces from his different travels. So there are his memories from India, from I think Turkey, Romania. I mean, all over the place. He goes all over the place. But he also talks about people traveling in different periods of time. So he will talk about, people like guys who tried to turn Europe onto Christianity, like in the early days, Eastern Europe, and would go from what used to be the German Reich, and they lost their heads along the way from barbarians. So he will talk about a lot of stuff about insane asylums in London. There's everything there.
Wow. Yeah, I'm excited to read that too.
That's
both of your.
I hope you'll like it.
Both of your theses, which I hope that we're going to be able to publish both of them too, so everyone will be able to read them just shortly.
That would be
sometime
great.
soon.
That would be great.
What was the strangest thing about coming to Rochester, because you hadn't been to the U.S. before this trip, right?
Yeah, this is like the first.
What are your impressions of?
I mean, I don't really have any bad impressions.
Yeah.
It was really nice. I like the greenery, and it was really green, rainy, has this nice weather. I mean, Yemen, it's, it's desert, and it's different. I mean, totally different.
Yeah.
We have some green places, but it's not like Rochester.
Right.
The other thing is, I don't want to talk about the locks here. I mean,
About
About what?
his locks.
Yeah, this is like the strangest thing.
This is like an inside joke in some ways, but
it's. I mean, generally, I don't have any bad experience here.
yeah, and you made it through the winter, which is the worst winter ever that you guys have been here for.
People told me that it will be very cold. You don't know what, and a lot of stuff. But I just adjusted with it. It was just fine.
We talked about this a bit. We went out to dinner the other night. But what was you said the strangest or the most difficult adjustment thing for you of being in the States was the mess that you made, essentially, that you were.
Oh yeah, because I mean, I am married, and I almost like don't do anything at home. I mean, just I go at home, I go to work, go back home, everything is ready for me. I don't arrange anything. while here, everything, I mean, in my room, I don't do anything, just, it's very messy. I sleep with bottles of water around me, papers, books, everything.
So the hardest
Some
adjustment for you
plates.
was having to clean up your room.
Yeah, that was really hard. I clean just like in 2 months, 3 months. I just collect, I mean, maybe 30, 40 bottles of water.
It's like my
But
desk,
it's,
though.
it's a
Like,
good thing. I mean, if you come to the room, you can't see me, actually. You can find me hidden and placed behind papers. Or
oh, Jan, you've been to the States a number of times, but
Yeah, but
to
I-
Oregon. But like, what was it like for you in Rochester? What is your memory of Rochester going to be?
Well, the biggest ghost town in the whole of America.
I don't know.
Well,
Yeah, parts of it.
the biggest ghost downtown
Yeah,
of America. Yeah. No. Well, yeah. I never lived. Well, yeah. I don't know. It's different because I don't want to say anything, like, because there are parts of Rochester that are struggling. So I've never seen struggling parts of any American city like that. Really. So that was a completely new environment for me. That way. But other than that, I think outside of winter, which I absolutely was awful, I hated it. But I think it was pretty cool. I really enjoyed campus. Like I always had this very vague idea of how the U.S. campuses look like. That they are sort of self-contained little
Yeah.
towns, and it is sort of like that. I like this campus. I think it's pretty cool the way it's organized and
And
the
you
river.
like Dickies.
Oh, and I like, yeah, so probably the best, thank you, yeah, wow, I needed a little prompting, but of course. So I think the absolute best part of Rochester are the bars that we attended, Dickies being the number one.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anyone says about their food or whatnot, it's good, it's all very good. Yeah.
It is very good.
Yeah.
I love Dickies.
Yeah, Dickies the best. If only they had a ping pong table, it would be everything.
Which, going on to your sport, since we always have to involve sports in the podcast, like your sport is ping pong, is the Polish ponger, which there's a bar, the Firehouse Saloon, which has free ping pong, in which Jan dominates basically everyone. Although I've only lost to you by 2 the last 3 times that we've played,
Yeah.
so it's been like competitive.
Yeah, you're. I
But
can feel
everyone
your-
else in the program we just demolish.
That's true.
Like,
That's true.
There's pretty much no competition.
Special shout out to Catherine.
No, yeah.
One day maybe.
one day you'll get your winning ways back. Sorry, Catherine. So speaking of the other people in the program, we had the class that we just finished actually is a class called, like, I don't even know, is it Translation in World Literature?
Yeah.
Something to that effect. And the students go through, and I've talked about this class a bit on the podcast before, but there's like 3 sections to it. One of where you read craft books like David Bellows' book, other books about the art and craft of translation. We talk about comparing translations, like looking at different versions of Master and Margarita, so on and so forth. Then we have a section of a world tour in which you read like 55 samples from around the world to get a better background in like what world literature exists. And then finally, the third part and the most interesting part is bringing those 2 together. This is like a Hegelian class of like my dialectical triangle or whatever. The synthesis of the class is reading 8 works that are contemporary translations, discussing them, talking to the translator, and then the class has to vote on which, and decide as a group which one of those was the best and explaining why. So the 8 books that we went through this semester were Blinding by Mircea Cărărescu, translated by Sean Cotter, Why I Killed My Best Friend by Amanda Makapoulou.
I know how to
Mikapoulou.
pronounce it. Wait.
Mikhalopoulou.
Mikalopoulou.
It's
Mikalapoulou.
It's high, I think.
And translated by Karen Emmerich. Then Revenge by Yoko Ogawa, translated by Stephen Snyder. A Treatise on Shelling Beans by Wisla Mishluski, translated by Bill Johnson. That Smell by Sanala Ibrahim and translated by Robin Cresswell.
Navidad en Matanza.
Navidad en Matanza by Carlos Labe, translated by Will Vanderheiden.
Yeah,
Talking to Ourselves by Andres Newman, translated by Nick Caster and Lorenza. What's her last name? Is it Castro?
I don't
Forget what her last name is. He's a co-translator on that. And then Viviane by Julia Deck,
yeah.
translated by Linda Coverdale. And
one more.
No, that's 8. That's 8.
It is,
That
yeah,
is 8.
okay.
Okay, so that's all of them.
Yeah.
So, what did you guys think of those books? That class. Give me some material here.
You mean? But are you asking about what we quote unquote decided together?
No, you guys can just talk about
Just
the
book?
class and the books if you want, or what you thought, if you thought it was good, interesting.
The class was I enjoyed the class. Probably it was the best class like throughout the semester, throughout the year. I mean, like because it was the most like meaty and essential in my mind. Although the one about publishing was cool too, but it was like more industry oriented as far as translating goes. This was really great, but the world tour and then the books were my favorite parts, and I really had some. I was lacking as far as world literature goes. I was really focused before I came here. I was really focused on American literature because for me it was a foreign literature,
Right.
And then so I sort of neglected other countries, and so this gave me a lot of cool new reading, and I enjoyed it a lot. I thought that it was a very interesting selection, very varied, and yeah.
Your favorite ended up being the Svevo book.
Oh yeah, the Svevo. I will read this guy. I will read more of this guy for sure.
Yeah.
Italo Svevo for life. It's really. I peed my pants almost when I was reading the Zeno's Consciousness. It was absolutely amazing. I have parts that I almost memorized. It's unbelievable. Yeah, such a yeah.
Which books did you like the best, Ayub, out of the 8?
Actually, I like Revenge, but
Yeah.
it didn't win.
It didn't win, but that was
Yeah.
by far your favorite. You were
It
you were
was
into
my
that from the
favorite.
start.
I even when he started reading it, I started reading it while I was at the airport going to DC, and it was really enjoyable. When I just came back, I finished it just in one set. It was really nice. I mean, I like the ideas in this book. I like some strange and fanciful. Images in this novel, like the heart bag and all this stuff, and it has also some realistic themes in it, and they are just it's kind of a novel, but it's, you can say, short stories collection, because it has this different stories and they are connected in one way or another to each other. So it was really enjoyable, new. I mean, it was something new for me. I haven't read something in this style of writing.
Yeah. It's a cool book. I really like that. What is your favorite, Jan?
Out of the 8 we read, it's hard to say. I don't know. I was really impressed by Talking to Ourselves.
Yeah.
And I'm mentioning it because it came late, so it was a very like one of the last books we read, and I was really impressed by it. Of course, Treatise on Shelling Beans was amazing. It's not a very popular opinion in our class, but I really enjoyed Blinding.
Oh yeah,
I actually
amazingly good.
I really I like this kind of writing.
That one's not your favorite, is it, Ayub?
Yeah, it's not my favorite because I couldn't make any sense of it. It was, I mean, you can just read, but you cannot really tie things together and get something you can say. You cannot. I can't really tell if someone is asking me about Blinding. I cannot tell him this story. I just tell him fragments.
Zombies.
There was a breaking point for me. Like, I was ready to give up on it a little bit. I was like, oh, this Romanian guy, he's sad. Like, sitting in his apartment, and I can imagine those blocks of flat, like post-communist Bucharest. I can see that pretty well. But then switch, and there are zombies, and they're vomiting their, like, it's just killing one. Like, it was absolutely mind-blowing to me. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, woods, Romanian people traveling, zombies.
And Sean's awesome.
Yeah,
the translator.
Yeah.
He was great.
It was great. I really enjoyed it, but I couldn't vote for it in class. I had to strategize. I wanted to push Polish agenda.
I mean, there is something special about every book. I mean,
Yeah.
of the ones that we read, all of them are nice. All of them are telling a story or something that is different from the other. But since we have like to vote for one, I mean,
I like how you strategized.
Yeah.
like you literally like went like most people were, I don't think were paying attention to like which ones are being voted up or down and which allegiances that you could eliminate certain books that you could get your Polish book through, and you failed. You in the end your strategy failed.
That's bull. That's not.
You can say bullshit.
Oh, okay. Well, that is complete bullshit because I won the first vote, the most important one, and so you took 2 extra votes to bring it down. Like it almost felt like there's a will behind.
Basically
like,
tied.
That's not true. It was 20. Well, I don't care. It's there's nothing like a basic.
So to give everyone a background, what they ended up doing. For the class, I leave it up to you guys, to the students on the last day to like figure out how they want to discuss which one's the best. They can eliminate books, but they have to give a reason as to why it's being eliminated, and they, as a group, have to come to an agreement about which one was the best and why, what that means in some sense. And so they had a series of votes in which the books are ranked according to different categories: literary value, the translation, enjoyment, like just pure enjoyment, marketability, and there's one other one I think. Isn't there? Yeah, there was.
Translation.
Translation mentioned.
Value?
Yeah,
Cultural or lasting. It was lasting. Like if the book was lasting or ephemeral.
Yeah.
And why
lasting significance. That was the
relevance, I think.
Or relevance or
something.
Significance.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah. And then Why I Killed My Best Friend and Treatise on Shelling Beans were like the top 2 after that. They're separated by 1 point.
Which is enough to win a soccer match, you know very well. So it's enough
like
to
1-0 to Treatise for Shelling Beans.
So it's enough to win a title.
Actually, after I recognize that, revenge will be like, I will be loser with revenge. I start supporting.
There's like motherfucking Survivor in our class. Like you guys start clicking up into like who's going to support which books so that you can get your agendas.
I really enjoyed the Treatise on Shelling Beans.
It's an amazing book.
The other books, and also Jan gave me like Polish chocolate, so he said let's just support him for that.
Which is funny. That's a perfect segue. So one of the students in the class, Catherine, the aforementioned Catherine, whose ping pong skills are they're there, they're good, they're solid,
I would call
solid.
it a strong average.
I'd put her like in our overall rankings of like 1 to 10. She's probably like the 4th or 5th best player, something like that.
Yeah.
I can actually hear her reaction when she hears this in my head right now. But she made for the voting for this, which I tweeted this today, and I'm going to put it on our website when I write up about this class, with the book that they chose. But she wrote up a flow chart where basically in the corners and on the sides it has the names of each one of the books, and then it has like my favorite book was, for example, my favorite book was Revenge, and then where you go from there. And the first arrow from my favorite book was Revenge is Hello Ayub, and the second, and that leads to I'll make you falafel if you vote for Talking to Ourselves, and then it just leads to Andres Newman's Base in the middle, because she really wanted Talking to Ourselves to win. But they were the whole chart is pretty funny. And for you, my favorite book was a treatise on shelling beans. The arrow goes to Have you ever shelled a bean? And then it goes to Yes. So I'm used to things that keep going and going and going and going, and then that goes back to Have you ever even shelled a bean? Which just goes back to Yes. So I'm used to things that keep going and going and going and going and going.
I actually, when I saw that, which in all honesty is super impressive, the whole chart, but when I saw the mention of shelling beans, like have you ever even shelled a bean, I thought how cool would it be if I brought just a bag of beans, we could like sit and
just sat and shell them,
just like all of us in a circle and start shelling beans and talk why this book should win.
It's like the Lipo's idea is like is like a knitting circle of sorts or whatever. This would be like our bean shelling circle.
And I think people then would really understand how awesome it is to sit with a guy who's delusional and shell some beans and,
tell him his life,
talk about Holocaust and stuff.
That would have been pretty amazing.
Yeah,
you should have done it.
I didn't think of that. Well, too late.
Never have that day back. It's gone. So what other questions or impressions or things you guys have? I'm holding off on telling them who won because I'm going to include that in the post. So you'll have to speculate as to whether Blinding Revenge, Treatise on Shelling Beans, Vivian, Why I Killed My Best Friend, That Smell, Talking to Ourselves, or Navidad and Matanza won.
Yeah. What else? I think I would just like to say that it really, coming from a different literary culture, it really opened my eyes to many things as far as publishing goes, and especially publishing translations, since this is our focus, but also just in general how books are made. And not to be trivial, but I think the thing that blew my mind the most was the difference in cost between printing paperback and hard copy. I can't believe how much money I wasted. Like, just how much, or rather not wasted, but how much money I let them earn, like, off me.
Yeah.
Because I thought, oh, it must cost so much.
It costs like $20 extra to print each one of those hardcovers.
It's like a super strong cardboard. It
Yeah.
has to be very special.
Speaking of, though, I'm going to follow that up real quick with that. This isn't official or planned, but one of the things that Jan and I have been talking about is that Jan would like to help start or create a sort of agency for Polish language authors to help get them more attention in the U.S., get translated, get published, and so hopefully over the next X number of months and years that will become a real thing, so that you can help represent different publishers and different authors from Poland who get. I mean, we do pretty well with publishing books in Polish. Like, there's a decent number, especially relative to the size of the country.
Yeah.
They get translated, but not enough. And I think that it is limited.
And I think there's also
it's a big value.
It would be also nice to try to push authors who are not necessarily in the spotlight in Poland, because they get a pretty decent exposure, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I was looking through the catalogs from the Polish Institute of Books and so on. So just to kind of broaden the spectrum.
Yeah,
cool.
Absolutely. What are you going to do when you go back to Yemen?
I'll be back just teaching at Sana University. I teach at the translation department, and I will just do some freelance translation. But I also now, after staying here for almost 1 year, I have also plans to translate books, like literary translation, from English into Arabic.
That's interesting. Do you have anything in mind?
I didn't really have something specific now in my mind, but I'm thinking about translating that.
You know who is looking for his book to get translated into Arabic is Gary Steingart, who blurbed Why I Killed My Best Friend and is the famous
that would
blurber.
be great.
He mentioned when we were talking about that's like Arabic's like the largest language that he hasn't been translated into.
Does he have any particular title he wants to get into?
I don't know. I would assume like Super Sad True Love Story might be the one that would make the most sense. But you might want to look at that. That'd be cool.
The problem is also with publishing industry. Yeah. It's really hard to publish books in Yemen. Right now. But if you want to publish them, you need to send them to Lebanon or Egypt, one of these countries.
There's a Lebanese publisher that I think would be a perfect match for his book. This was going to be my follow-up question too. Like, if you, I know that there's some regionalisms to the Arabic language, but that's more spoken than written, right? So if you translate it into Arabic, it could be read by Egyptian, Lebanese.
Any place
there's not.
It's just the standard Arabic.
Right.
It's only just the spoken Arabic is somehow different from one country to another.
So in theory, you could translate into Arabic and then have a publisher in whatever country. It doesn't have to be in Yemen, right?
There's no problem at all with that.
How do you like teaching at the university? How much is it different than it is here?
I don't have really an experience for, undergraduate teaching. I don't know how because I teach undergrads, but it's for me. The master's experience was totally different. I like the way how professors and instructors deal with their students. It's like they have a good relationship with their students, so they can talk freely. They can argue about a point, but almost you cannot argue about point against your professor. You have like to say, "Oh yeah," or something like that. You didn't have to say, "No, I have another point of view," or "I don't think so," or whatever. You cannot like have a different argument against whatever the professor says. So this is really a good point. I mean, it helps. I mean, for critical thinking and being creative.
Yeah. Yeah.
About everything that you do.
Absolutely. I think you should both end by just telling me a traditional joke from your from your countries. I think that would be fantastic.
In our respective languages as well.
No. Yes and no.
I didn't have actually something traditional, but something it's related to the situation nowadays in Yemen, because we have a lot of electricity outages nowadays because we have some problems. So people, there is a joke about this. I mean, the electricity, because we stay like almost all the day. I mean, and all the night. I mean, in dark. So there was a Chinese girl who just was asking her father, "I want to visit the most romantic people in the world." He said, I don't know who are they, but let me just search and find out who are they. So after a few days, he told her, "You have to go to Yemen. They are the most romantic people in the world." She asked him why. He answered her, "Because they import, I mean, huge quantities of candles from China." When she traveled, she didn't find them romantic at all, but they don't have electricity.
Instead, they're jumping over camels. No, I'm just kidding. I just like that idea. What do you got for me, Jan?
John, joke from Poland. I don't know.
Because there's so many. Well, what's funny about that is there's so many Polish jokes in America. It's always been.
Yeah, well.
Which are, I mean, they're just like inserting Polish people instead
How many
of
Polish people you need to?
Yeah,
change
essentially.
the light bulb?
How did the Polish guy break his arm? He was raking the tree. Like, there are better ones. I'm not saying I remember them all. But.
I don't know. It's really hard. It's hard to come up with one from the top of my head.
Who do Polish people make fun of?
So we have there's a very popular whole series of jokes about the Pole, the Russian, and the German. All the Pole, the Romanian, and the German, or the Pole and two other.
Generally Germans.
Yeah, but always a German and usually a Russian. So yeah, there's a joke. There's a joke that was very popular, but it originated in Germany, and it sort of as a kind of a promotion, like an advertisement for the holidays, and it said to German people, like, go visit Poland, your car is already there, because there used to be a time where there would be a lot of car stealing happening, and yeah. So there's
supposed to go steal the German cars and bring them over, park them. It's kind of perfect.
So yeah, stuff like this, I guess.
Nice. Do you guys have any last comments?
Rock on.
Oh yeah, rock harder. I think we came up with one night. Jan played soccer with us for a time, and at Dickies we came up with a better slogan for Rochester to help promote it of rock on and rock harder. We just wanted to put those everywhere for no good reason.
Like just spray them everywhere
over like an exit sign, like rock harder.
So that would be my message.
That's your message to everyone. You have anything you want to?
I don't really have anything specific about. I have also a comment about our class, which is I really enjoyed talking to translators and authors.
Yeah.
It was really beneficial because when you talk to a translator, he tells you exactly what he did throughout the whole process. What are the difficulties he encountered? What are how he solved them, and also when you talk to authors and dear translators, how they sometimes accept changes and how they sometimes reject any change, and it was really
it's also very encouraging
insightful.
because they tell you actually about how they made mistakes themselves and how they struggled, and sometimes, especially when you're a beginner, it feels like you don't have the skills, and then they tell you that's like everybody's problem at the beginning. So for me, it was important to, for whatever reason, to hear that people like Sean Cotter or Bill Johnston had their stuff sent back to them with tons of edits and corrections, and kind of gives you a perspective.
I like too that they say things that that you might think, or the translators might think, or our students might be thinking, or that we might say as like a teacher or instructor, but I think it resonates more when they say it. So like stuff about like, well, I didn't always know this, or like I will happily change things if need be to make this work. Like it's almost like saying, yes, the thing that you're thinking is correct and it's okay, and that's really good too. But yeah, that was fun. This was a really good class, like with all the different people that were in there.
Also, everyone was engaged, which was really cool. Because there's nothing worse than a class that's just not interested. And here, everyone was interested, which was
They really were.
awesome.
Yeah, it was very good. Well, cool. Thanks, guys, for coming to Rochester and for talking on our podcast. And next time you'll have to Skype in and talk more about sports. Because we're really light on the sports coverage this week. Although Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid in the final for the Champions League is pretty awesome. I did not call that one. I predicted Barcelona and Real Madrid. So.
By the way, I can't jump over camels.
You can't?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. I should take a picture of both of you and then Photoshop you jumping over a camel. Or we could use one of Kaya's pictures of her getting hit in the head,
that's
and like have it be a camel.
That would be great.
Or you flying into a camel. That might even be better. Just like, oh goodness. Okay, thanks guys.
Thank you.